In this video, I'm going to show you how you can create a wave effect in any mesh object using the dynamic paint system. First thing I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and change this from Blender render to Cycles render because I prefer that when it comes to materials. Dynamic paint works with the internal engine, but I don't really like the internal engine, but that's just my preference. I'm going to go ahead and turn on screencast keys. I'm going to press N to bring out this side panel, scroll down, start, and then I'm going to make it a little bit bigger so you can see it. Make the size 50 for old people like me, and make that 100. That way it's nice and big and anybody can read it. I'm going to go ahead and get rid of this cube because I don't need it, so right click on it, delete. I'm going to hide this camera because it's just kind of in the way. I don't need this light. I'm going to go ahead and delete that. And since we're going to be using any kind of dynamics, which generally means you're going to have bake files and so forth, in order for baking to work, or to be able to save your bake files, you need to have your file saved. So I'm going to go ahead and just save this file. That way it's already saved whenever we get further along. Save as, and then I'm just going to find a place to put it and just put dynamic paint wave effect. Alright, now let's get started. First thing I want to do is add, keep in mind this can be any mesh object, but I'm just going to do something really simple. I'm going to add a mesh plane. I'm going to go ahead and scale this up to 10 by 10, 10 by 10, and then I'm going to press with make sure the plane is selected by right clicking on it, and then I'm going to press tab, go to subdivide, and then down here change that to 50, and then it puts all these little subdivisions on it. Then press tab to exit edit mode, and then come over here to the physics tab, click on that, go down here to dynamic paint, and this right here is what we want the waves to be on. So this is the canvas, so make sure canvas is selected, and then click add canvas, and then change this from paint to waves, and then just leave the rest of the settings the same. Now we need a paintbrush, and the paintbrush can be any mesh object. I'm just going to use an icosphere. Add mesh. Where are you at? Icosphere. And I'm just going to put this somewhere up here. I'm not even going to bother changing the size because I'm not really creating anything. I'm just showing you how the system works. With the icosphere selected, move it, just a little bit above your plane, and then come over here to dynamic paint, choose brush, add brush, and then leave everything the same. Now I want this icosphere to fall. I want it to go, basically I want gravity to pull it down. So I need to add some rigid body physics to it. That way gravity can take a hold of it. So I'm going to click on rigid body. And then down here, this is your rigid body settings. I'm just going to leave it to, just leave it alone. Leave the settings alone because you don't need to change anything. Because all I'm trying to do is just make it fall. Now if we click play, the icosphere should fall. And since the icosphere is a brush, whenever it hits the canvas, which is the plane, it should interact with it. and we'll see what it looks like. There you go. See, it put a little bit of a wave effect into it. Nothing dramatic. But if you look right here, let me zoom in so you can see it. See how it's kind of choppy? You see the squares? Well, we can fix that. Go over. I went back to 0. Now I'm going to press tab to go, or pardon me, I'm going to select the plane, then press tab, and then see, now we're in edit mode. We can see all the little squares again. Now click on smooth vertex and just leave the settings the same, and then press tab again to exit edit mode, and then click smooth shading, or shading smooth, however you want to look at it. Now whenever we play through it, it should look a lot smoother. So it does look a lot smoother, doesn't it? Now I could see that let me go frame by frame. It looks maybe like the icosphere is moving a little bit too fast to interact with it as well as it should. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to go back to frame 1. I'm going to zoom out so I can see what I'm doing. Now I'm going to make sure the plane is selected, or the canvas in this case. I'm going to change the substeps to, let's just say 5, and that'll give it more accuracy, I guess you could say. And now that we have it, you know, since we have the file saved, we can actually click bake, and that'd be an easier way to go about this. Click bake, and it goes through and literally bakes the physics. Now if we click play, a little bit better. Now this in and of itself right now is not much of a it's not much of a animation, but think of, you could model a piece of ground and model a lake into it. Now you could make this plane the surface of a lake, and then you could have raindrops falling into it that would cause waves, and that's the kind of stuff like this would be used for. And I guess that's pretty much it. And of course, if you wanted to make that water, you would have to right click on it, make sure it's selected, and go over to materials, and then create a new material, change it from diffuse to glass. I'll go ahead and I'll leave it just a slightly grayish color, that way it looks like the water would be deep. And I'm going to go ahead and add a mesh, cube. Now I made the scale on this 10 by 10, so I'm going to make the cube also 10 by 10 on the X and Y axis. 10, 10. Alright, now I'm going to go into edit mode. I want to be able to choose just one face. So down here you have where you can choose the points, or the lines, or the faces. In this case I want to choose the faces. So I want to right click on the top face, and then click or press delete on the keyboard and choose faces. Now I have a box. I'm going to press tab to exit edit mode. Go over here to the modifiers tab, add modifier, and then click Solidify. And what a Solidify does, let me go to top view so you can see what we're doing better. What Solidify does, it will add thickness to this box. I'm going to choose even thickness and make sure fill rim is selected. And then I'm going to just say 0.1. It's kind of a thick box, but this is just for an example. Alright, now I'm going to go back to front side view. I'm going to change this to wireframe, just so we can see through it. See this little black line? That's our canvas. So I'm going to move this box to right there. That way, this black line, which represents water, is just below the top of the box. Now, if I zoom in right here, you can see how this goes right into the thickness and almost to the edge. So I'm going to make the box just a little bit bigger. I'm going to go ahead and change this to 10.1 and 10.1. And the reason why I do that is because, see, I want this little black. I don't want to risk having this go all the way outside, if that makes any sense. Now I'm going to zoom out a little bit, pan over, and I'm going to set up a little bit of lighting. First off, I'm just going to use environment lighting. That'd be easier because it's just simple scene. I'm just trying to show you the possibilities of dynamic paint. I'm just going to make it completely white, and I'm going to turn my camera back on and look at it through my camera. And a good way to maximize the size of this camera so it fills up this entire space or goes all the way to the edge is just make sure your camera is selected, you're looking through your camera, and your cursor or your pointer is somewhere in this window, and then just press home on your keyboard and it maximizes it. Now I'm going to go ahead and reposition the camera so that I can get a better view of my box. Alright, now I'm going to go to rendered view so we can get an idea of what that's looking like. I'm going to go back to the cameras or the render settings. I'm going to click on border. That way it's only rendering what's inside the border. Now you see it sort of looks like water on top of it. Of course it ain't moving because there's nothing going on right now. I'll go ahead and change it back to solid view. Now play through the animation. I'm going to stop right just somewhere around there, and then go to rendered view. So it almost looks like water now. I'm going to go ahead and render a few frames of this in video format. I'm going to do it at a low resolution and fairly low quality so that it makes sense, or so you can actually get an idea what it looks like. I'm going to just go to 25%, really small resolution. I'm going to change the sampling, put that on 5, put the preview on 3, square samples because it makes more sense to me for some weird reason. Change this to H264, which normally when you're rendering, rendering an output in video is a no-no, but this is just for test purposes. I'm going to leave that the same. I'm going to choose an output folder, go back to where I saved the project, which it's in here somewhere. Well, I thought I saved it in here. Apparently, did I not? Where did I save my project? Let's see. Somehow or another I put it in downloads. I didn't mean to put it in downloads. How did I get it in downloads? Anyway, I don't know how that happened. Must be my old brain farting. I'm just going to put this, make an output folder right here, and I'll just select that, press accept, and then I'm going to click animation. And it's going to go through and quickly render out a very low quality, a very low quality render of it, but as you can see, it's doing it fast. Obviously, if you was going to be doing this, you would do it a lot better quality. I'm going to go ahead and fast forward through the rest of this. Otherwise, I'll just squawk and squawk and squawk, and that will probably drive you nuts. Alright, I've rendered out 96 frames. Going to open up the rendered animation. And as you can see, it's nothing special. But I mean, it does kind of look like water, except it's really, really slow. And obviously, I would want to ideally probably make this box rigid body also. That way the ball wouldn't fall all the way through. But yeah, I mean, you're getting my point. Now, what we can do also is we can change the properties of this canvas. We'll go ahead and go back to frame 1. I'm going to right click on the canvas. I'm going to go ahead and rename that canvas. That way I can find it easier over here. And we go over here to dynamic paint, and we can change the settings over here. Now I'm going to make the speed probably 3 times as fast. And then the dampening, I'm going to turn that down to 0.001. Just add enough dampening to it so that it would eventually stop waving. And the spring, it's the way that describes it, it's the force that pulls the water, or the stretching of the mesh, the deformation of the mesh back to its resting position, which is in a flat plane configuration. I'm going to, I think it becomes more springy if you turn that down to 0. I won't turn it down to 0 real quick. I don't use dynamic paint that often, but I'm going to go ahead and give this a try, see what happens. Well, something that ain't working right. Here we go. There we go. That looks more like it, don't it? All right, now I'm going to bake that. And now play through it. Now that looks a lot better. But as you can see, there's a little bit of mistake right here on the corner where the edges of the canvas is coming up through the top of the box. So let me see if I can solve that issue. And I'm going to do it the easiest way possible, which is just move the box up just a little bit. That should take care of it. And we won't even have to rebake it. There you go. That looks a lot better, don't it? Now, I'm going to go ahead and press 7 to go to topside view. Zoom out a little bit. I'm going to add some lighting. Instead of just using environment lighting, I'm going to add some, let's just add a sun. Add lamp, sun, and let's say just add it out here somewhere. Zoom down so we can change the elevation up here. Press 5 to go into orthographic mode. I think that's what it's called, or perspective mode. I don't keep track of what these things are called. I'm too old. My brain is too old. Now I'm going to rotate the sun on the y-axis. Press R, then Y, and just kind of point it that direction. That way it's casting shadows that direction, and the light's coming from out here. And I'm going to go back to 7. Yeah, that should work. Let me see what my sun is set on. I'm going to leave it on 1 for now. And I'm going to turn down my environment lighting. I'm going to go ahead and turn it off. Just see what it looks like. Go to the render settings. I'm going to change it back to 50. And then change this to 10. That way it'd be 100 samples. Here's another little thing I've noticed. On this seed right here, go ahead. I always click that. And the reason why I do is because it kind of gets rid of some of the noise that will be generated whenever you're rendering a project with multiple frames. Instead of the little speckles and dots being all in the same relative position on the frame, this right here will randomize it and make it look more like an actual recording. So I always make sure that's dark gray. It just looks so much better in my opinion. Other people may disagree with me. I'm going to go ahead and render this and just get an idea what it looks like. Not very good. Turn the environment lighting back up. As you can see, you're going to need a lot more samples than 100. But I'm sure the lighting can be tweaked a little bit. Go back over to 3D view, and I'll tell you what, I'm going to get rid of the sun. I don't like using the sun. It's just, in my opinion, it sucks. I'm going to change it to a spotlight. I think for this scene it will work better. I'm going to rotate it on the y-axis. Just point it that direction. And I'm going to add, well, I'm going to go ahead and duplicate that. And then just position it somewhere around here. And then rotate it on the z-axis. And point it at the water. And then duplicate it again. And put it over here so we're having a 3-point lighting set up. And then rotate it on the z-axis again and point it at it. I'm going to move it back just a little bit. and then repoint it on the by rotating on the Z-axis. This is my main light. I'm going to turn that up to 100,000 to start. Turn this one up to 10,000, and these will almost certainly change. And then change this to 5,000. Now press 0 to go into camera mode or to view through the camera, and then change this to rendered. And I can already see it looks a lot better because we're only up to 7, 8. No, that's only 9 samples now, and it looks a lot better than it did before. I'm going to go ahead and try to turn this down to 0, just get an idea what it looks like. Still looks much better than it did before. Now, what I'm going to do, go back to solid mode, press 7. Alrighty, I'm going to go back to frame 1. Now, what I'm going to do, this right here is already has rigid body attached to it, so I'm going to make this box a rigid body. That way the icosphere will not fall through the box. It'll go into the box and just stay there. Alrighty, go to rigid body, and then just change it from active to passive. That way it has rigid body properties, but it will not fall. Gravity will have no effect on the box, but any other rigid body object will interact with it. Now I'm going to choose my icosphere. I'm going to give it a material, and in this case I'm going to make it an emission. Make sure the what color should I make this? Oh no. Let's just give it a kind of a soft blue color. And then change it to 10. Now, when we play, I'll go ahead and play. Well, I forgot why to do that. Oh, that's why. That's a rookie mistake. See how it stopped right there at the top of the box? That is a rookie mistake that I made several times before, and I couldn't figure out what in the world was going on. But, I mean, it's obvious now. I need to change from convex hull to mesh. And the reason why is because when it's in convex hull, it just estimates the dimensions, the shape, and so forth of this, and it does it to make the physics quicker. But when you put it on mesh, it actually goes by the actual mesh. It takes longer, especially with complicated meshes, but with this it shouldn't. I'm going to go ahead and click save right now so I don't lose my work, because sometimes it wants to crash. Going to click here, rigid body cache, free all bakes, and then going to right click on the canvas, go here, free all bakes, and then bake all dynamics. And if this works like I think it should, this icosphere should fall into or through the canvas or the water, however you want to look at it. It'll hit the bottom of the box and stop, and the icosphere is glowing. There you go. Now, let's look at it through the camera and render out a frame, see what that looks like. Now see, it's actually starting to look like waves at this point. Now usually whenever I do a tutorial, I will create the project first. That way I know exactly which direction I'm going or which direction I need to go to get it to work. But this it's kind of fun this way. And I take you along on the ride of me trying to figure this stuff out. All right, now I want to do something a little bit different. Exit out of the camera view because this icosphere is kind of large. So what I want to do, I want to go click on free all bakes, go over here and free all bakes on the rigid body settings also. And then this icosphere right here, I'm going to make that quite a bit smaller. I'm going to go 0.5, 0.5, and 0.5. Now I'm going to go to top view so we can see where the relative position is and compared to this box. I'm going to duplicate that sphere. Press duplicate. Move it over. Duplicate it again. Duplicate it again, and I'm just doing this to create multiple objects that will fall into the water. And I mean, you can create as many as you want, and there's obviously easier ways if you want to create some kind of drops, but in this case it's not really drops because I'm not trying to simulate rain. I'm just trying to simulate objects or glowing objects falling through a canvas. That way you can get an idea of how this dynamic paint waves effect could be used in one of your own projects. Now I'm going to just kind of pan it down. Just about like that. That way we can have a little bit of perspective to it. And I'm going to raise at, random amounts. That way they fall into the water at different times. I think that's sufficiently randomized, or at least it is for this test. I'll go ahead and click save because I don't want it to crash on me. Alright, now free all bakes, bake all dynamics. Now if we play through, but I think because I made these smaller, I think I need to add more substeps. So I'm going to raise this up to, I'm going to make it higher than what's actually needed. I'm just going to say 30, that way I know there's enough. That way it's, because 20 substeps is as high as it'll go apparently. But what it's doing is it's calculating the position of this and of these icospheres in relation to this canvas. That way it's calculating it 20 times per a frame, and that way it can better or more accurately correlate how it's the interaction between these icospheres and the canvas. I could have explained that a lot better, I'm sure. But I'm old. Alrighty. Gonna free all bakes on the canvas, and then go over to the dynamics, free all bakes again, go back to the canvas, and bake all dynamics. And you can see it takes a little bit longer to do the baking, but not a whole lot. Granted, this is a very simple scene. And let's just play through to about here and look at through the camera and render it, see what it looks like. But for some reason, it's not having as big of an effect on the canvas as I would like. So, what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and select all of these. I'm right clicking on each one as I hold down the shift button. That way I can select them all. And then I'm going to make them just a little bit larger. I'm going to make them twice as large. Instead of being 0.5, they'll be 0.1. I can go through individually, but I can't just reset these. So I'm going to have to just press S and then size to enter. Now, it moved them off of, it expanded the space between them as well. So, what I need to do is just individually just reposition them this way so that they're over the canvas. Granted, anybody who knows what they're doing with Blender, they're probably thinking, this guy, he could have done it so many better ways. Oh, I'm absolutely sure there's better ways to go about this. But every time I do this, whether it's creating a tutorial or creating an animation, it's a learning process for me. Now, with that there, free all bakes, and I'm not 100% sure that I have to free all bakes for both systems. I just do it because I want to make sure. It seems to look a little bit better. Of course, I don't know why this one's down so low now. That's weird. But I'm going to go ahead and free all bakes again, and then bake all dynamics. Now we'll give it a play and see what's going on. I think the water's working a little bit better. It's still not ideal in my opinion, but I'm just trying to show you what you can do with dynamic paint in terms of making this kind of simulation or animation. Now, I'm going to go ahead and render this. I'll tell you what, I want to go ahead and go there and then just render this scene and just see what it looks like. And I tell you what, I'm going to make this a little bit better quality so you can see what it looks like. But I'm going to go ahead and render this after I turn off this video, or that way I can play it at the end of this video and let you see what it looks like. 32, 36. Yes, that's weird numbers, but it works. I've done tests with this computer. It works better. I don't know why. It just does. I'm going to change this to 20. And then render this image. Oh, that's why it's looking weird. No wonder. Change out on up there. And then I could turn this down probably to 15. I'm going to fast forward through this. You know, I was going to go ahead and finish that, but I think I figured out why it's looking so grainy. I think it's a mistake I made. I wasn't thinking about let me see. Go to the make sure the canvas is selected. Go to materials. Change this to completely clear. That way light will pass through it better. And then volume sampling. That's not the one I'm thinking of. Here's the one I'm thinking of. Transmission, I think that should be right. Reflective caustics. Let me try that, see what that looks like. Just a little bit better, but not quite right. Like I said, I'm still a rookie when it comes to this stuff. But I think for the purposes of this dynamic paint idea or tutorial, or how to go about setting it up, this pretty much explains it. I'm sure I can make it look a lot better if I really set my mind to it, but this video's already gotten long. But I'm going to go ahead and end it here. I'm still going to go ahead and render this scene and then put it at the end of this video. And more likely I put it at the beginning of this video too. But anyway, if you have any questions about how to go about doing this, let me know. And if I didn't explain something very well, because I don't explain stuff that well sometimes, especially whenever I'm doing it in this format, because I'm doing a lot of guesswork, let me know and I'll try to explain it. And if you'd like a copy of this dynamic paint wave blend file as it is right now, let me know and I will make it available. Of course, it won't have the bake files in it. It'll just be the blend file, and you'll have to bake it yourself. But anyway, I think that's it. Later, people.